You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for a successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to this week's episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast. And what I thought I'd talk to you about today is the club. You've been hearing me on each of these episodes talk about the value of the club and encouraging you to jump online and have a look at it. I thought I would describe in a little bit more detail around the value that the club can offer your dental practice and what the experience of being a club member is like. So first of all, let me briefly tell you about what the club is all about. Now, it actually started when COVID first hit a year and a half ago. I thought there was so much information that was needing to be known by dental practices, how to navigate this new space of restricted openings and additional infection control processes that we needed to take into account. And every state had a different situation within Australia of how they could function. And every team and every team member were managing things in wildly different ways, all of it totally understandable because it was all so unknown. We know a lot more now. We've settled into this groove more now, but it certainly is still posing enormous challenges in all our lives. So when COVID first hit and my programs with my one-on-one clients ceased or paused, I decided to start doing this group online coaching for numerous dental practices. And it was a free service. I would jump online and do a live session via Zoom with the practices every Wednesday and Sunday, just updating everybody on the information, letting everyone know how we could communicate with our patients effectively during this time, how to virtually work off-site on the dental practice, taking advantage of this newfound free time that we had to try to get some systems and monitoring of the dental practice underway. And then slowly the club morphed into what it is today. And what it is today is a paid-for membership. And what you get as a club member is, first of all, weekly lunch and learns delivered to you every Wednesday. The lunch and learns are a great way of incorporating fresh ideas, new skills to develop in your team and within your systems, within your practice, because they can be incorporated into the general operations of the day. You would all agree with me that finding time to do team training is an enormous challenge and usually requires us to shut down productive time in order to achieve that team training time. However, with the lunch and learns, practices can pay their team members for their 1 hour lunch. The first part of their lunch while they're eating, they're viewing the presentation, viewing the lunch and learn. And then the second part of their lunch break, they're talking about how they could implement this new thing, this new concept, this new helpful insight into the general operations of your practice. So with the lunch and learns, we don't have to actually cut out productive time. We can also incorporate these lunch and learns as frequently or as infrequently as you like. When you become a club member, you don't just have access to all of the future lunch and learns that are delivered to you every Wednesday. You get access to the whole library of lunch and learns, and currently there's about 90 lunch and learns sitting there in the vault. And so the minute you become a member, you can actually gain access to that. Go through the different categories of the lunch and learn presentations that have been done in the past. Some of them are all around team. Some of them are all around patient management and care. Some of them around leadership, general operations of the day, reception communication skills, a whole raft of different topics there, all grouped into different categories. And so whenever you are planning a team training lunchtime, this might be done once a week, it might be done once every couple of weeks, it might be done once a month, once a quarter, once every 6 months. Just get some sort of regularity in your schedule for team training and have a look at the lunch and learns that are on offer. Select one that's going to be really relevant to your practice straight away. Some of the topics are even self-awareness topics, so helping us to be able to manage ourselves better and be a better team member in the dental practice. Another helpful thing that you get as a club member is access to the private podcast. Only members have access to this private podcast. You can't find it when you're searching podcast feeds. You get a unique URL that's just designed for you. So within your podcast feed, you will start every Wednesday morning receiving the current Lunch and Learn that's going to be delivered to you that day. What that allows for is while you're on the move, driving to and from work, going for a walk, you get a chance to listen to the Lunch and Learn presentation and determine, is this one that's going to be helpful for our team, for our practice, for our patients? If yes, schedule the next team training lunchtime session and identify that as the topic that you're going to be utilising. Again, once you get that URL feed, you get access to all the previous recordings as well. So you can very easily move through the different topics and select what's going to be good for you. Another wonderful bonus that you get as a club member is a one-on-one session with me every month. So if you've got a particular challenge that hasn't been managed on a previous Lunch and Learn, just jump online with me. I can provide you some insights, some advice, some guidance in how to manage that particular challenge within your practice more effectively within your practice. These one-on-one training sessions are also wonderfully helpful to really customize any particular Lunch and Learn to you. Maybe you're having trouble trying to implement it. Maybe you need additional systems to support the implementation of a particular Lunch and Learn, and you'd like some feedback around what can be done so it's a successful system in your practice. The one-on-one coaching sessions can also be enormously helpful just when you're trying to personally manage a particularly stressful situation. For example, you may have a patient that's been really wildly upset about something. You just want to bounce some ideas off somebody else on how to manage that particular situation. Maybe a staff member is not performing at their best for whatever reason and you'd like some assistance in how to manage that situation. Maybe things have just become pretty stressful with all the challenges that we face in life and working life. There are many ways that I can be of great assistance to you. So if you are a club member, do take advantage of those one-on-one coaching sessions. And those one-on-one coaching sessions are proving really fabulous in feeding future Lunch and Learns. I'm getting from you, from the source, from the people who want to get great value from their membership within the club, what topics to cover. And your feedback with that is really encouraged, because if you're going through something particularly challenging in your practice, I betcha there are many other practices that will also be experiencing the same thing. The great thing with the club is that you can join up anytime and get 14 days free, just to make sure that the experience is something that you feel like will be of high value to you. I present the club presentations and provide the additional support around it so that you get the greatest amount of success from your membership. I truly want to see your practice thrive, and I want to see you and all your team members thrive as well. So do utilise that 14-day free trial for yourselves and see if it's going to be something that works well for your practice. Now, to move a little bit into the benefits of developing any kind of skills within yourself and your team, let me just go through some of the benefits that I've just listed down in the last few moments, and I could have just gone on and on and on. The thing with team training, sometimes it becomes a thing that we know that we'd benefit from in some way. Sure, it's a positive, but who's got the time? And you feel like it's going to take an enormous commitment, time and energy to be able to do the training and then actually implement the stuff that you've been trained in. But I've really thought hard about how to make the whole process very doable, because the benefits to your practice when you do perform frequent team training are ridiculously awesome. They're just magnificent. A quote that regular club members and practices that have worked with me in the past, a quote that I often bandy about, is a quote by Archilochus. And this quote just speaks volumes. Hopefully you'll agree with me. The quote goes like this: "We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training. We don't rise to the level of our expectations. We fall to the level of our training." That quote, when you really bring it into yourself, it by itself should really shift your thoughts around and your commitment to team training. It is highly likely that you are one of the numerous dental practices that do want to just get better and better. You don't want to stagnate. There are many practices out there that have done a lot of work and their standards have been well established. All their team members know what to do, and they may be providing a service to the community that they are perfectly happy with. But I can't help but feel that standing still is stagnating. And as times change, patient expectations slightly modify over the years, I can't help but feel that we always need to be improving, getting better, progressing in order to make sure that we always maintain a high standard of what we do. A high standard for our patient care, but also a high standard for us personally, that we ourselves want to progress and change and get better and better. And when I consider when I first started on my journey of continual improvement, constant and never-ending improvement, if you're a Tony Robbins fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And one of my previous episodes on this podcast has all been about constant and never-ending improvement. So do have a listen to that. But when I started on this intentional journey to continually improve, it really made me reflect and become quite passionate about, as the years go by, I want to look back over the journey and see how much I have improved. I want to see how much better I am now in various different skills than I was back a year or many years ago. And it was interesting, I recently, just over the last few days, reflected back over a journey I took back in 2016. I was reading a book called The Winner's Bible, and within that there is a self-auditing process where you send off an email that encourages people that you know to provide feedback anonymously about what they think your strengths and weaknesses are. The process is a bit of a challenging one. You do have to become quite happy with whatever comes through. But if you can put up with that level of discomfort, I tell you what, the opportunity for growth is wild. It's just a magnificent process to go through. But it's a process I was happy to go through due to my desire just to get better, not slowly over the years, but in leaps and bounds over the weeks and months. I really wanted to fast track, feel that strong sense of progress. I was moving from one phase of my life to another one, and I really wanted to draw a line in the sand and start doing things that were highly useful in my life, identify the things that weren't useful, and replace them with more useful, helpful things. And so I was reflecting back over that journey I took in 2016 for my upcoming The Club presentation that's coming out next week. And it's all about self-discovery as a basis for self-improvement. And I looked over the responses I received back in 2016, and I tell you, now that we're in 2021, I was reading through them thinking, I don't recognize this person at all. And it really helped me to recognize the growth and development that can happen over a number of years. And the other thing that I identified by looking back over that previous anonymous audit was, I'm so thankful that I did change, because the feedback that I received back in 2016, there were weaknesses there that if I hadn't improved, I would be having trouble in my life. I think there would be a level of suffering there that was unnecessary, because all I needed to do was figure out what I was doing wrong and improve upon them. As Charles Kovess, co-founder of Julie Parker Practice Success, says, when you're doing gardening, you can't pull out the weeds until you've identified where they are. And that's what this self-discovery process is, finding out where the weeds are and then taking action to pull them out. So certainly the impact for us personally when we choose to embark on a journey of constant never-ending improvement, embark on a journey of identifying what's not working well, how can I improve it, what don't I know that's not working well, how can I then improve those things as well, and the things that I'm doing great, how can I make sure that they are incorporated into my long-term future. And if we can do that in our dental practices, the kind of team we end up with, the level of patient care we end up with, the quality of leadership, the efficiency and productivity of the systems that we use, if they all move through this constant and never-ending improvement process, just imagine your dental practice in a few years' time. People often talk about the 1% difference. And the 1% difference is resounding when we're talking about Olympic swimmers when they are within a tenth of a second and you are either first or third. And the minor things that can be done to make sure that that tenth of a second, that 1% is actually on your side, they could be very, very subtle things. But what you'll find in your dental practice, if you make sure that you are improving your patient care by 1%, you're improving your team communication and how they interact with one another by 1%, maybe your marketing by 1%, your leadership by 1%, you start getting this compounding impact of all of those minor improvements. And the overall impact on your practice becomes quite extraordinary and never ending in growth. It's always going on. It's not like you reach a bar and that's it. You don't learn anymore. You don't improve anymore. You've reached the ceiling. No. Just like within our own selves, our own self-development, there is no ceiling. We never actually get there. But we can be wildly better than we were this time 5 years ago and wildly better than we were this time 1 year ago, depending on your level of commitment to that team development. You will absolutely have an impact if you have one training session every month. Even more if it's every week. If it's part of your team culture that you are going to be improving all the things that you do as a practice and all the things that you do as a team member within the practice, that everyone's got this push to improve and we're embracing all the things that go along with that level of improvement. Because I have to say to you, if you are going to be doing team training and expecting your team members to be delivering a different kind of performance, something different to what they've been doing, your responsibility is to provide proper support for that. And what I mean by proper support is allow them to make mistakes in the process of learning something new. That's one of the most difficult things to do. Jump back onto that podcast episode about constant and never-ending improvement and hear more about that. Also, you need to give your team members a chance to practice, repeat, practice, repeat, practice, repeat. It's through practice that we master things. We also need to get super comfortable with feedback. This is one of the biggest challenging things. It depends on the dynamics of your team, of how safe it is to give and receive feedback. But what would be an ideal situation is that you are recognizing what it takes to provide and receive safe feedback, foster that as part of your culture. So then you flip from having feedback be something that everyone tries to avoid at all costs because it's so terrible, to something that you're all striving for and you embrace because you love the feeling of getting better and better and better, and you support it every step of the way. So there are things that we need to do as a practice if we truly want to have constant improvement within our systems, within our patient care, within our team communication, within our leadership, within our operations. But when you become a club member, I teach you how to do all of those things. I teach you how to incorporate all of these things within your practice. So the benefits of team training to your practice and your team are, number one, you develop a stronger team culture. When you've got constant team training going on, everyone is in the same boat. We're all learning new stuff all the time together. And it develops a sense of camaraderie, support, empathy for each other. And we end up being each other's cheerleader as we progress further on down the improvement track. People get bound together. That becomes like a tribe within your practice, that not every practice operates this way. We're a practice that we're constantly looking for the better way of doing things, learning the better way of doing things, committing to doing the better way of doing things, and we're all there to support each other along the way. And it binds you all together in a really interesting way. The second thing is progress. Tony Robbins says progress equals happiness. We all, as individuals and as a part of a team, need to feel like we're progressing forward in order to be truly happy. Such a wonderful thing to feel like that you are progressing as well. And what this reflection back in 2016 on that Winners Bible audit process that I went through was reminded me how important it is that we track our journey. That we track, this is where we are right now. This was the level of team happiness and satisfaction. These were our figures. These were our key performance indicators. This was how long staff members hung around at the practice for. This was their longevity within the practice itself. And then track that every year or every couple of years. So you get a chance to see, there it is, tangible progress. That in itself is highly motivating, wildly motivating, I must tell you. Because if you don't track it, and if you don't have a look at it, the change seems to happen gradually enough that you don't feel that sense of progress anymore. When you have a team that is being frequently trained and frequently upskilled and developing in themselves and as a group to higher and higher levels and standards, it does impact recruitment. All of a sudden, you start to find yourself wanting to get a like-minded tribe member on board with you. You start to understand the characteristics that your future team members will need to possess in order to fit into your tribe. Without that kind of culture around self-improvement, then you would be forgiven for saying we need to have someone with these particular skills. These are the responsibilities that will be part of their role, and therefore these are the specific skills they need to fit into that. But when you've got this culture around self-improvement and team training, you know you can train the skills lickety-split. That's the easy bit. The tricky bit is to get people to be motivated to improve, to get them comfortable with feedback and that improvement journey, to have the level of self-confidence that helps their improvement journey. That's stuff that's really tricky to train into somebody. Usually it's just part of somebody or not. It can change in people over time. You can get someone that's been a bit damaged by a previous workplace, bring them on board, make them feel truly safe and supported in that space, and they'll jump on that tribe bandwagon of continual improvement. But it will change what you're looking for in your future teammates. Staff retention is another thing that improves when you start to provide team training on a frequent basis. Because we ourselves, personally, we like to feel like that we're part of a group going somewhere with great purpose. And that without each particular team member doing their thing, we wouldn't be able to get there. One of the things that keeps people loyal within your organisation is being provided with the opportunity to upskill, to develop skills in areas and become better and better. So you'll start hanging on to your great team members for longer. Obviously, with team training, the patient experience is far better than if you weren't doing anything at all. All of a sudden, you're tapping into all of the thousands of ways that you can change the patient experience, that you can change the way things are said, the things that are said, the things that are in the practice for that patient, that support that patient's journey throughout their appointment time. All of your team members have a space where they can throw great ideas in and start implementing new and unique ways of improving the patient experience within your practice. How about goals achievement? How many times as a practice have you established goals? This is what we're going to achieve this year. And then, without team training, all the team members keep doing the same thing every day because there's no alternative on the table. So we'll just keep doing the same thing we do every day. And of course, what happens when you do the same thing all the time? You get the same results. And then you become frustrated that your goals aren't being achieved. I set these goals every year and we never quite achieve them. Goals achievement becomes a wildly different experience when you do team training, because all of the team training is around and in support of all the many facets that go into achieving each specific goal for the practice. A wonderful aspect of team training as well is you develop masters within your practice. And what I mean by that is whenever we are training team members up, they move through a process. They go from not knowing how to do something to doing something very, very well. So first of all, they're in a training space where they're being guided how to do the thing. Someone is overlooking them, helping them modify and support them throughout that skills development. And then they get the chance to practice it. They know how to do it. They don't need someone looking over their shoulder anymore. They can do it competently, but now they're going through a process of practice, repeat, and that's where they start to make it their own. They put their own spin on things. The basics around it become default, become human nature to them, and now they can start putting the bells and whistles on it in the way they would like to roll out that particular thing. They do that often enough and brilliantly enough, and then they become a master. And mastery can happen with the way someone answers a telephone, the way someone seats a patient into the chair after bringing them through from the waiting room, the way the sterilisation is done, the way someone presents to work, their physical appearance. The uniform is always ironed, the shoes are clean, hair is neat and tidy, hands and nails are well manicured. But you get these team members that are masters at what they do. And what happens when they become the master is that you can start to encourage other team members, do it like Sally, do it like Jenny. They're the master. And so can you imagine if you've got new team members coming through, or even existing team members, and you see that some team members are starting to become a bit slack with the way they present themselves physically in the practice every day, or their management of mobile phone use, for example. How much more clear is it as an expectation if you were to say to this group of team members or a new team member coming in, look at Sally with the way she manages her mobile phone within the practice. She's the master. She's the one setting the standard in that particular area. Then it's super clear for that team member to go, oh, I know what success looks like in your eyes in regards to that particular area. And you'll find different team members will be masters in different ways. Sally might be a master in presentation, but it could be Jenny who is a master at answering the telephone in a way that develops great rapport with patients straight away. So each one of us will end up having our strengths. Each one of us will start having an area that we master, that we are the standard, and that other people can learn from us. But likewise, I get to learn from everybody else as well with all of these different areas where other people are the masters of. And we get that dynamic happening in a team when we are fostering a culture of constant and never-ending improvement, and we get to roll out constant and never-ending improvement through frequent team training. The other benefits that your practice will experience when you start committing your team members to frequent team training and skills development are higher productivity, more efficient systems, higher levels of accountability and responsibility for each team member, higher standard, overall standard in everything, higher standard in infection control, higher standard in personal performance, higher standard in customer care. And there will be this lovely shared support of each other. Team members start to truly care for each other because we're all in that vulnerable space together. And when vulnerability is presented, you get empathy, and that's where people start to care about each other. And so this goes for everybody. The owners and managers of the practice are in the same basket. We are all being pushed out of the comfort zone into the learning zone together. We're all learning new things all the time. None of us do it perfectly right. None of us have all the answers. But as a team, we can all put our best foot forward and improve and get better and support each other in a beautiful, caring way, in a powerful way, and start to incorporate things that will truly make a difference to the kind of dental practice that you are. So, what do you do from now? Jump online, become a member straight away. That's what I say. But in all seriousness, I have a 5-step process. If you do want to take your dental practice down this path of constant and never-ending improvement, your first step is to state at the next morning huddle, the next team meeting. If you don't have a team meeting or morning huddle planned, get the whole team together for a special meeting and state your intention to the team. If you are a team member, go to your boss and say, listen to this episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success podcast, and let's see if we can get on board with this. I can really see that we've got enormous potential to improve what we do. So the first thing, step number 1, state your intention to your boss or to the whole group. Step number 2, together with everybody, create a plan. How often are we going to be participating in group training? How often are we going to be putting a lunchtime aside, be paid for that lunch hour, so we can do one of the lunch and learns within the club? Is it going to be every week? Is it going to be every month? Is it going to be once every couple of months? Together, when everyone is involved in the decision-making process and has input, they have ownership over the result. They feel responsible for the result, and they're far happier and more on board to move forward with it with everybody else. So do bring the whole team together and have it be a group discussion. So step number 1, state your intention. Step number 2, create a plan together. Step number 3, diarise the plan. So if you say once a month, the first Wednesday of every month, we are going to be doing a lunch and learn. It might be the current one that comes out in that morning, or it might be one of the ones from the members only vault, one of the many topics that have been covered previously. So now we're going to allocate somebody to go through the diary and say, on the first Wednesday of every month, diarise that 1 hour lunch break. That's your third step. That's your step number 3. Step number 4 is to diarise a tracking and team follow-up. It's a wonderful opportunity to see if the impact of this team training is having an impact. And so also diarise, maybe at your regular monthly staff meetings, let's have a quick whip around feedback session about how the team training is going. How's everyone feeling? Is everyone feeling well supported? Keep in mind, you're never going to be perfect at everything straight away. You need to practice and repeat, modify how you do things to make sure things are really effective. So get the feedback, identify what's been really helpful in the whole space and what can be improved upon in the process. Maybe once a month is too frequent or too infrequent. So that's some feedback that you can then implement and change within the plan. So do diarise a chance to get feedback from the team on how everything's going. And if possible, then step number 5, track your performance progress. And so if you are doing team training around how to better manage new callers calling into the practice, for example, then get some figures. What are we experiencing right now? How many are we converting right now? And then how many are we converting after we've been rolling out those particular lunch and learns for a couple of months? Are we seeing actual improvement in results and performance? And of course, I've got all the framework of how to do that within the lunch and learn topics. And so you are supported properly through that process too. So I know many of you will be saying, I don't know how to track that, but I tell you exactly how to track that. I hope I have inspired you. It's a situation where you just can't lose. 14 days free trial. Get your team on board, see what everyone's experience is like, have a look through the vault of all of the previous topics. I promise you there's going to be so many topics there that are going to be relevant to your practice, and new ones keep coming out every single week, and you have a role to play in that as well. If there are topics that you want to have addressed that haven't been addressed previously, call out to me. They get done straight away. So then you get to see your own presentation idea roll out within a couple of weeks of you mentioning it. The opportunity for growth for your practice is enormous. The potential is there. It just takes a commitment to take action. So now I encourage you straight away, go to my website, julieparkerpracticesuccess.com or .com.au. It all goes to the same place. Click on the menu item, The Club. There is an explainer video there that you can have a look at, and it goes through some more information there as well. Then there's a button to click that you can claim your 14-day free trial. I promise you, you won't regret it. I look forward to seeing you in the club. Bye for now.